The Academic Senate has identified 14 factors that are essential in the review of freshman applications and 9 factors for transfer students. And your materials include a list of these factors on slide 4. Now, comprehensive review has 3 key provisions, which apply to resident and non-resident applicants alike, freshmen and transfers as well. And those are on slide number 5. The first is that all students should be evaluated on a broad set of criteria, which include both academic and non-academic factors, and that no single criterion, like a SAT score alone, will determine who is admitted. The second is that each student's application should be reviewed individually and in its entirety. There are no fixed weights assigned to any of the comprehensive review factors. Instead, campuses consider and balance all of the approved factors when determining who is to be admitted. And the third is that students' achievements are evaluated in the context of the opportunities and challenges they have experienced at their high school or community college. The university is interested in how students challenge themselves, understanding that such opportunities may vary depending on the high school or the community college that they attend. For example, UC takes into account that a student whose high school does not offer, for instance, a broad array of advanced placement courses or honors courses, and yet has earned a 3.63 GPA while working to support her family, may well bring a level of achievement and tenacity that is superior to a 4.0 student from a better resourced high school. This is why we read every application. We're looking for persistence and potential as well as academic and personal achievement. These applications are read multiple times. It's an extraordinary amount of work, as you can imagine, but our campuses are devoted to a comprehensive and intensive evaluation of students' credentials. Returning now to our timeline, which is laid out on your slide number 3. In February and March, our campuses notify freshman applicants of their decisions. These students have until May 1 to indicate whether they plan to enroll at one of our campuses. Transfer students are notified in March and April and have until June 1 to alert us to their intentions. And this timeline is pretty much the same around the country. March and April are also important periods for California resident applicants who meet UC's requirements for admission but who are not admitted to a campus to which they applied. These California resident applicants are offered an opportunity to attend a campus that has space. In the past several years, that campus has been UC Merced for freshman applicants. For transfer students, both UC Merced and UC Riverside make referral offers to these students. We continue to ensure that all California resident freshmen that are guaranteed admission under the master plan are admitted to a UC campus. I think it would be difficult to find a selective university system that makes a similar commitment to its in-state resident applicants. This admission cycle presents the university with both opportunities and challenges, of course. Most UC applicants are very well qualified and will also be actively recruited by many other public and private colleges. The National Association of College Admission Counseling reports that nearly a third of all college applicants in the U.S. applied to at least 7 institutions, and 2/3 applied to more than 3. It is possible, likely even, that an applicant who applied to multiple campuses could be admitted to several UC campuses as a result. In fact, we encourage applicants to apply to multiple campuses to better their chances of being admitted. Most of our California resident applicants are admitted to a campus to which they applied. In fact, of our California resident applicants who are guaranteed admission to the UC system, that, again, top 9% in their high school or top 9% statewide, 81% were admitted to a campus to which they applied in fall 2015. So the admission rate on a campus, the percentage of students to whom we offer admission but who may or may not enroll, is driven at least as much by student choice as it is by campus decision making. But most of our California resident applicants are still admitted to a campus to which they applied, as I noted above. Now, please refer to slide 6. It may be helpful to clarify again that admission and enrollment are not the same, although the terms are often conflated. Campuses often admit more students than they have capacity to accommodate, knowing that not all students will accept their offer. Demand for UC education is increasing. Fall 2015 saw a record 193,000 student applications, and that is reflected in the admissions rate, or the percentage of applicants to whom we offered admission. Depending on how popular a campus is with potential students, the percentage who accept an admissions offer may be higher, which means the campus must admit fewer students to enroll the same number as another campus whose yield is lower. Clear as mud, absolutely clear as mud. But let's look at slide 7. I think it'll be clear. The relationship of admission and enrollment is exemplified very well on that slide. It shows that in 2014, for instance, UC Santa Barbara and UCLA enrolled almost exactly the same number of new California freshmen, but UCLA admitted half as many as Santa Barbara did. So the inherent uncertainty of this process requires admissions directors on my campuses to make predictions about who will enroll and who will not. And again, as I mentioned before, oftentimes it's very much due to the students having a great deal of choice in the matter. Okay, I'm coming in for a landing. Understanding that the complexity of the admission cycle allows us to reflect on trends occurring this year, and I have you turn to slide 8. First, the university's goal this cycle was to enroll the same number of California residents as last year. To reach this goal, we made slightly fewer admissions offers this year to residents because our projections indicate more would accept our offer. If the university had maintained the same admissions rate as last year, fall enrollment would have expanded, exceeding the level of resources we have to support enrollment. Second, the racial and ethnic diversity of our admitted freshman and transfer classes remained relatively unchanged. In other words, despite the fact that we are not increasing the number of new students over last year, the overall proportion of students admitted from underrepresented groups will not change. Third, some campuses admitted more non-resident students, but those non-resident students are enrolled above and beyond the financial capacity of campuses to enroll state-funded resident students. The number of California students we admit is not affected by non-resident admissions, but rather by resources available to support enrolling them. Another key point to keep in mind about non-residents is that they are far less likely than Californians to accept our admissions offer. So large numbers of admitted students will yield relatively small increases in the number who actually come to us, who actually enroll. Our overall non-resident enrollment will be approximately 15% of our undergraduate population this fall. That's up a little bit from last year's 13.4%. Finally, individual UC campuses have variable rates of admission, and these reflect local conditions, campus capacity, previous enrollment, attrition, and graduation of current students. Before closing, let me direct your attention to slide 9 as I say a word about our commitment to California Community College transfer students, an often unheralded constituency. UC admits more of its new students as transfers from a community college than any other university of comparable size and selectivity. Since 2007, our enrollment of transfer students has increased 18%. It is one of the most important legacies of the master plan. But transferring in the middle of one's career is difficult. It's important that four-year institutions like my own provide guidance to community college students in traversing that chasm. With this goal in mind, I'm pleased to report that the University of California has taken an important step in that direction by developing UC's transfer pathways. Now, each pathway is a set of courses that community college students can take that will prepare them for transfer into a particular major at any one of the university's 9 undergraduate campuses. Transfer students who complete a pathway will be well positioned for academic success and on-time graduation once they have enrolled. The first round of pathways covers 10 of UC's most popular majors. Another 11 are currently being reviewed, and we expect they will be released later this year. We suspect when we have all 21, we're going to have coverage of about 2/3 of the most popular majors that affect transfer students. Now, these pathways provide transfer students with a clear roadmap to UC. The pathways make our transfer course expectations more transparent and give clear guidance to prospective students. Transfer students will enter their UC course of study well prepared with a level of pre-major coursework that matches that of students who started at the university as freshmen. So, UC admissions and enrollment's a complex undertaking. While the university has a uniform comprehensive review policy, the fact that each campus manages its own application review and sets its own enrollment target based on its unique enrollment environment is significant and important. That is why admission and enrollment numbers and rates fluctuate, obviously, year to year. Nevertheless, UC continues to adhere to the master plan, offering a place within UC to all guaranteed California resident applicants with an eye on increasing student diversity. Further, we continue to develop and implement policies that help Californians, community college students in particular, successfully transition to UC. So with that, I will thank you for your attention, and I'd be pleased to take any questions you might have.
Okay.
I want to thank you for your presentation. I was a high school teacher in California, in Riverside, for 20-some years. I was an AVID teacher. We're AVID, a program designed to increase the number of minority, underrepresented students in higher education. So I'm very happy for the opportunity to hear your presentation. I have before me, I think, a report from the Campaign for College Opportunity, an organization which I've worked with for quite a number of years, who I respect. And in their report of June 2015, they have charts, and I wish I could have it to share it with you.
Sure.
Where they show that although we are very happy to see the number, I think two numbers, number of Latino applicants reach all-time high to UC. Also, I think the number of Latinos accepted into UC at an all-time high historically, right? All-time high. The rate of Latino enrollment has actually declined, according to their figures, that it has declined over the last 10 years, the rate of Latino enrollment in UC. That it's actually gone down, the rate. Where I believe the percentage of Latino high school students is about 46% in the state of California. Latino enrollment in UC actually lags way behind that, is nowhere near that. Can you address that?
Sure, absolutely. Could I ask if you're speaking to admissions rates or actual enrollment, because that doesn't accord with the data that I have. Now, with that said, there's no question that we can be doing a better job with underrepresented students at the university, but that one's throwing me for a loop, I have to say. And you're absolutely right with regard to high school growth. We're not matching that high school growth either. We're taking more Latino students, but we are not taking them in the proportional numbers that would be represented in California high schools. In addition, we're also seeing that Latinos in California high schools are graduating at higher rates as well.
Right.
And we're not matching that yet either. So we've got a lot of work to do.
Another interesting fact, and I was at the press conference with President Napolitano and Chancellor Bryce Harris with the pathway that you talked about.
Yes.
And as a community college trustee, a community college instructor, I know how difficult it was for transfer students to figure out, what were the classes that they were supposed to take for differing programs in UC. So I applaud the effort.
Thank you.
I applaud the effort, and I applaud UC's commitment to taking transfer students. Again, their study is saying that counterintuitively, that the transfer rate of the Latino percentage of transfer students is actually even lower among transfer students than first-year freshmen.
That's actually correct. And the question there, of course, is why? Because California community colleges...
they're highly represented.
You bet. And highly represented in the California community college
Exactly.
system. I just came back to UC. I've only been back here a couple of years, and one of the roles I had was at the College Board, where I was their director of transfer. And my role there was advocacy for transfer students around the country, and in particular for underrepresented students. The pathway to the baccalaureate degree is transfer. The pathway to success, I think, in California is through the California Community College for many of these groups. Why? Because California community colleges are very welcoming, they're very accommodating, they're low cost, and they're in the neighborhood. So we've got work to do there as well, and that's why I'm so thrilled with the pathways, because the Academic Senate, my Academic Senate, has taken the lead in really thinking strongly about what's the best preparation for these students when they get to UC. Highly selective, research-oriented institution, and they came to the conclusion we have to routinize our requirements across the system because we want students to come, but we've made it too difficult. So that's why I'm very thrilled with the pathways. Now, it remains to be seen. We've still got some good work to do, as you point out, in increasing the number of underrepresented students that actually come to the University of California. So I'm very hopeful, but you raise an excellent point. We've got more work to do.
Thank you. Mr. Ting?
Thank you, Mr. Handel, for coming in today. I did have a question on the slide 8. Your last bullet point, it said that non-resident enrollment you think will be up by 1.6%. Can you talk to why that is this year?
The last bullet point, overall non-resident enrollment will be about 15%. Yeah. Well, we're just projecting at this point, so we know the number of admits that we have taken, and from that we're making some estimates about how many probably will enroll, and we suspect it'll be around 15%.
I guess given all our efforts of really trying to increase in-state enrollment, can you talk to us why, given all our efforts to really up in-state enrollment, I'm a little bit surprised to see non-resident enrollment actually going up. I would have thought it at least would have been flat this year. So if you could help us understand why it's going up. We've been really working very hard to try to keep it at the same level it was previous years.
No, I know. The legislature has been very supportive of the university's attempts to increase in-state enrollment. A couple of things that did happen this year, as you know, the president asked Berkeley and UCLA, the most celebrated campuses in terms of taking non-resident students, to keep that even, and they did, or they declined. She also asked San Diego to go no more than 20% of its total undergraduate enrollment. The rest of the campuses, however, increased their non-resident enrollment, and so that's where you're seeing that growth. So it's not happening at the campuses with the most non-resident growth, but it was happening with the others.
But as part of one of the conditions we increased funding for the UC was to increase in-state enrollments. So do you anticipate you'll be able to hit those targets?
Correct. And as I understand it, $25 million was put in the budget for this coming year, the following year, in order to increase California resident enrollment. And I know the president is very, very interested in increasing California resident enrollment.
Okay. I wanted to just switch topics to our meeting earlier today. We had a chance to really talk about some of the admissions snafus, in particular that happened at Santa Cruz, but also appear to be happening at Davis, Merced, Riverside, and San Diego, where students who have been admitted had their admissions canceled for missing documents. So, I just want to get on the record that that's something that's very concerning to me. I know a number of legislators have either had conversations with you or at least the chancellor of UCSC. What I would like to just reiterate, especially seeing as it appears that many of these are in-state students or Californians. At least a fair number of them were Californians based on our conversation earlier. I think the concern is that it's so hard and rare to get that admission that for folks who are just missing a piece of paper, that we really would hope that the university would work with them very hard, that would find a way to work with them very hard to keep them admitted into school this year. I know the fall has already started for many of the schools, perhaps by winter or spring for some of the other schools, but I think it's really important that the university especially bend over backwards to try to make sure that students who admitted, have completed the coursework, and all they're doing is missing a piece of paper, really, maintain their admission status at the university.
I couldn't agree more. And as we had in our discussion earlier today, we certainly don't want to cancel. We don't like canceling students. We put in a lot of work, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of reviewing applications and making some very important decisions along those lines. So that's certainly not our preference. And in the future, as I mentioned earlier today, the reason why we request those documents is because most of the information, almost all of that information on the application is self-reported. So our academic due diligence requires us to take a look at, did you take the courses? Did you pass the courses? Did you graduate from high school?
Yes.
So, and then the other campuses that you mentioned there, now you'll note that those campuses, yes, there were cancellations in there, but they're with our less selective campuses, and that's an important distinction there. It's part of what happens late in the summer, and they only canceled these students very late in the summer, so it's late August right now, after multiple attempts to get that record. And what we think happens there, although we don't know for sure, is that those students never intended to come to us. And when we, at this late in the year, late August, we don't get that record, the final step is to say, all right, well, it doesn't look like you're really interested in coming, and so they cancel the registration. In San Diego's case, interesting, which is a highly selective campus, they make an automatic reinstatement when that goes out. They make many calls first, and they reach out by email. But then late in August, they may cancel, but they do an automatic reinstatement if that transcript shows up.
Got it. Yeah, I guess just to follow up, I know in Santa Cruz this issue was brought to our attention. So are you saying at the other universities like San Diego or Riverside or Merced or Davis, you haven't heard the same number of complaints or issues or even appeals from those applicants?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. So again, raising this issue is a really important one because we want to be sensitive to students. But no, we certainly haven't seen any of that level at any other campus.
In fully respect, we want to work with you to make sure that next year the process is improved. But we also see a couple hundred students who are impacted by this year. So again, really want to reiterate that we urge the university, especially Santa Cruz, to take a hard look at their applications to make sure that if they're not being admitted because obviously they didn't complete the coursework or their transcripts don't conform to what the application is, I think that's totally understandable. But if it's just a piece of paper that's missing just to confirm what already was submitted, I think that's a totally different situation where the university should, again, find a way to get them in now or get them in the winter or in the spring. And I think that, because otherwise these students are really left without any option.
I agree with you, and we hear you loud and clear. But I very much agree with you.
Thank you.